but then you throw in RA to that, and that changes it dramatically to where it's all right. We have to adjust. A lot of empathy I have for her trying to explain it because she's the one going through it, and I'm the one just trying to support her. You know, it's nearly impossible to explain the variability of the symptoms. If you have a good day, then we're thankful for it, and we enjoy that day. And
or good moments.
Yeah, good moments. And if it's not a good day or not good moments, then we need to have empathy and be able to just help out.
Turtle slow.
I'm taking a half a step for every 2 steps you're taking.
It's like really slow. Hey friends, in this video I wanted to bring along my husband Aaron because we're just going to be talking about what it's like to have rheumatoid arthritis and from a family member's perspective.
Yeah, hey, I'm Casey's husband, Aaron. I look forward to chatting with you guys today. Married to this wonderful lady for almost 15 years now. So look forward to talking about all things rheumatoid arthritis today.
So I recently received this email from Everyday Health, and I highly recommend that you go to their website and sign up for this email, because every time I receive an email regarding rheumatoid arthritis from them, it's so helpful. And so the title of this one is 8 Things About Rheumatoid Arthritis That Are Difficult to Explain or Understand, because RA is complicated and it's difficult for us to understand that's going through it sometimes, of all the different ups and downs. And it's hard to explain to family members, and it's hard for them to see us going through all the different symptoms.
And it's hard for me as a spouse to a lot of times explain it to coworkers, family, folks that I interact with. Sometimes folks understand. Most of the times they have no idea. A lot of times this is difficult for Casey explaining it, as it is for me. A lot of empathy I have for her trying to explain it because she's the one going through it, and I'm the one just trying to support her.
And number one in this article, which I think is the reason why RA is so difficult to explain, is because arthritis is in the title. And so it says rheumatoid arthritis is not osteoarthritis. So I think a lot of times when people hear that I have rheumatoid arthritis, they think it's osteoarthritis.
Yeah, and I had breakfast with somebody yesterday, and they're like, she seems too young to have this. And I'm like, well, from what I've learned through Casey educating me is you can be any age and have rheumatoid arthritis. So your age is really irrelevant, and can be very confusing for people.
It almost feels like the name needs to be changed because it throws people off. It doesn't make any sense. Number 2, rheumatoid arthritis is systemic, not solely a joint disease. So with RA, the organs of the body, such as the heart, lungs, and eyes, can also be affected. Arthritis is just part of the name, and it's misleading, confusing, and somewhat suggestive that RA only affects joints, and that's not so.
Yeah, and just your energy levels too. I think that's one of the biggest things I notice is, you can be in pain, but then your energy levels are totally different than they used to be, and that could be for various reasons.
And that's number 3.
Yeah, number 3, it says in this article, it's nearly impossible to explain the variability of RA symptoms and disease activity. As a husband, the way I operate is, help me understand, how this works and how can we, address it and attack it and be able to cure it. And that's not the way rheumatoid arthritis works. One day you could have a really good day, and the next day you could be doing the exact same things, and it could be totally different. And there's no rhyme or reason for it. And so, like this article says, it's nearly impossible to explain the variability of the symptoms and the activity. And so, if you have a good day, then we're thankful for it, and we enjoy that day. And
or good moments.
Yeah, good moments. And if it's not a good day or not good moments, then we need to have empathy and, be able to just help out. And if there's things Casey can't do, then we need to help her out. And if there's things that she can do, then that's great. But we need to have a lot of empathy for what she's going through and realize, look, it's a day by day, hour by hour disease that we need to have flexibility and grace with, for what she's going through.
Because there are a lot of fluctuations that happen just with symptoms, and the symptoms are weird.
It can be very frustrating if one moment somebody's feeling good and then the next moment suddenly they're not feeling good. And it's not because they don't want to feel good. It's just, something's popped up. And so we need to be able to be aware that that's something that can happen at any time, and you can't plan for that typically. You just, when it happens, you just address it in the moment.
Okay, number 4, diet, exercise, and supplements do not cure rheumatoid arthritis. So I think what this plays into is that so many people want to have control over the situation, and it goes back to linear or non-linear thinking, because I think one time we were talking about it is like, if we get a headache, or even Aaron has migraines, we know he can just take his migraine medication, or he can take Excedrin or whatever, and then it goes away. And then you're like, okay, good, let's move on. And also with migraines, it can be unexpected too, but at least like, okay, just take this medicine and it goes away, and move on. And so that goes back to the sense of control. Like, we want to have control over our health and our body. And so we assume that if we just do certain things, it's just going to cure it. And,
if I have a headache, I'm going to take, headache medicine, or eat healthier to where, from a diet perspective, that helps out. But that's not the case with rheumatoid arthritis. There's not a cure-all cure for it.
Because I started taking Enbrel about I think it's been maybe more like 4 months ago. And then I started taking Humira. So I've been on a biologic for the last 4 months, and you would think that my knees and the swelling in my knees would have gone down, and that my mobility would be back by now. But my mobility is not where it was pre-RA. And so, the medicines, even the ones that work, it doesn't give you the life that you had.
Casey uses a cane now for when, we get out and walk in most cases. And we went to eat last Saturday, and had what I felt like was a short quarter-mile walk, and there was, a little bit of hills in there. Not much, but, that was not good for her. After, we walked to the restaurant, ate, and then walked back, she realized that was too much. And in my mind, I was thinking, just stretching my legs. This was great.
And he's a foot taller than me, so naturally he walks faster. So he's already had to slow down for me even before RA. But now it's like, I don't know, how would you describe it? As like, I'm a turtle slow.
I'm taking a half a step for every 2 steps you're taking.
It's like really slow.
That's what happens when you're 6 feet with long legs compared to 5 feet with shorter legs. But then you throw in RA to that, and that changes it dramatically to where it's all right. We have to adjust. What we do. So if we're going to go eat somewhere, if we can't park close
park
to
in
it,
the parking lot.
I may need to drop her off right in front of it. Then I go park and then come back. And there's nothing wrong with that, but rather have a nice meal and, Casey feel better later in the evening instead of, that walk just totally knocked me out.
It set me back. It made my joints more swollen. And it also makes me feel so old. Like I mentioned in a previous video that my granny is 97, and I really feel like she could move faster than me.
She probably could. Yeah, she probably could.
Number 6 is morning stiffness is a recognized characteristic of RA, but you're not being lazy. And for me, I haven't noticed a significant stiffness in the morning. That's just me personally, but it is a hallmark piece of RA. I think I just move slower in general, maybe because of fatigue in the morning. But I think even throughout the day, like if my knees are significantly hurting, or my shoulders or feet or whatever, or hands, if I'm moving slower or I can't do what I've normally been doing, I'm not lazy. I think that's so important for family members that have a loved one that has RA. It could be someone that they're living with. It could be their mom or dad. I mean, people in their 20s have it. So sometimes their mom or dad thinks they're lazy, or their spouse or their kids. Like for example, we have a 12-year-old, and so 12 months ago, my daughter was used to me doing so many things, and now I can't just walk around the mall with her for a couple of hours. And so I just asked her actually yesterday, would you mind pushing me in a wheelchair? And she just kind of hesitated, like, I don't want to do that. She didn't say it, but I could tell she was like, I don't want to do that. So I think it's important to speak about people with RA, you're not being lazy, whether it's the morning or not.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're Casey's going as hard as she can, and she's trying as much as she can, but you often have to balance how much you push yourself. If you say, you know what, I'm just going to push through it, then that can mean the rest of the day you're feeling really bad.
Or the next day.
Yeah, or the next day. And so I think expectations, having to realize, look, expectations are different moving forward. Whereas you could do something, before RA, you may not be able to do that as much. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, your loved ones, me, our daughter, have to understand, look, we have to make adjustments, and that's okay. And if it's not, then that's a problem, for the family members, because it's not something that Casey can control or has control of.
And in my particular situation, I have moderate to severe, and so my symptoms have progressed quite rapidly in 6 months, where I had mobility issues pretty quickly. But for other RA patients, some of their symptoms come on gradually, like over years. And so then I think too, that's almost like a frog in boiling water for like their family members. They're like, wow, you've had RA for like 2 or 5 years and you're just now needing a wheelchair. What's wrong with you? And I think that's also an issue too, because they've kind of gotten used to the idea that, okay, you've had RA for 2 years, this is what this looks like. And now all of a sudden their symptoms have worsened, and then they're like, wait a minute, what did you do to make this worse? And they didn't do anything.
Yeah, the condition just got worse. And I think in Casey's scenario, she knew something had been going on for a while, but, rheumatoid arthritis wasn't something we were very aware of. It wasn't something that we had even really thought about. So when it came on really fast, and went from vacationing in Washington D.C. and walking 7 to 8 miles a day for almost a week straight to suddenly I can't walk a quarter of a mile hardly, and all my joints are swollen. And so that was a very dramatic change for not only Casey but then for me and our daughter of, look, this is what she has, and we're going to have to make adjustments accordingly. And that's the reality. These things can happen gradually, and sometimes they happen very suddenly. And I think how you react and respond is as important as, for the spouse and for the children, is as important for the patient for what they're going through, knowing that, hey, my spouse and, my kids understand and are supportive of this, because if not, it makes it worse. I think for Casey or for somebody that has it, when their loved ones either don't understand or just aren't supportive of what they're going through.
And a lot of people have asked me, why am I so positive or have such a positive attitude through this? And I've had to give Aaron's part of the credit, because the first time I needed a wheelchair, he's the one that recognized it, and he's the one that got it. And he's the one that was like, this is totally okay. We're just going to do this. And he's the one that pushed me. And so in his mind, he didn't really do much. He's like, I just got the wheelchair. But
would you rather your spouse, have a good day and feel good and be able to, enjoy that with them, or them, to be going down pretty quickly and suddenly they can't enjoy their day? So, you make adjustments and figure out, all right, if walking around is something that has a very negative impact on her and her body, then we just make an adjustment. We just push her around in a wheelchair, and we can still conversate and have a good time and make memories together, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we can't be stubborn and act like nothing's wrong, and just ignore it. And if we do that, then that's not good for anybody ultimately.
Or expect me to act like I did before. Like, that's so challenging. But even though in your mind you didn't think you did much, for me, just because you were so gracious in the process of it, it made me, react that way as well. And so then that helped me to be more positive and accepting of the situation.
Yeah, I agree.
So number 7, it says that work disability is common with rheumatoid arthritis. And so as I'm experiencing the symptoms and the progression with it, I can completely understand that RA can make work difficult. There are people that have made adjustments to their work schedule, but eventually sometimes it gets to the point where you can't work. And your spouse or whomever your loved one is needs to understand that. And I also think that's managing expectations. You may have thought, like, I'm going to work the next 20 years, or maybe you're in your 20s and you're just about to begin a career and you're like, well, my career aspirations have just now been shot. Like, I can't do what I thought I was going to do. And so I think that's just a matter of managing expectations and just knowing that work disability could be a possibility.
Yeah, and if you think about from a spouse perspective, or family member perspective, especially if you're married, when you take those vows for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, I mean, this is a prime example. If something pops up, then you have to realize, look, I have to have flexibility with what your normal day-to-day look like and what you can do and can't do moving forward. And we're fortunate that we have flexibility to where Casey doesn't have to work full-time. And so that allows her to be able to kind of pace herself throughout the day and things she needs to be able to get done. If she can't get it done today, that's okay. We'll do it tomorrow. Or I need to step up and help out, or her daughter needs to help out. And ultimately, a lot of that just kind of comes down to communication. So if you're not communicating well, that might be difficult to do.
Mm-hmm. And then number 8, are rheumatoid arthritis patients immunocompromised? And what does that even mean? Immunocompromised is a complicated word and misunderstood, but RA is an autoimmune disease. Most people think that means we don't have an immune system or that we have to strengthen our immune system, which is silly. It just means that our immune system is confused and it's attacking the wrong things, it's acting up. We have a reduced ability to fight infection. It's not necessarily that we have no immune system. We still have one, it's just very confused.
So does that mean if I get sick, I got to sleep in another room? Maybe that's what that means. So, fortunately, Casey's a pretty healthy person, so she doesn't get sick hardly ever.
I mean, in the past, and that kind of worries me because now that I'm taking drugs that suppress my immune system, I'm not really sure what that looks like.
And when you have kids in school like we do, kids bring crud home. We just have to realize, look, when that happens, that could have an impact on Casey and, her body's health, or potentially fighting off whatever, is going around in the house at that time.
So like I mentioned before, I highly recommend going to everydayhealth.com and signing up for the Rheumatoid Arthritis newsletter, because every time I get it, it's just such good information. And I just wanted to have just a conversational style video, because I think it's important for you to hear a family member's voice and their perspective on such a difficult disease as this is that we're going through.
Yeah, and I would say, guys, this is my first time ever on YouTube. Obviously, the husband behind the wife here, that's way more camera friendly and better to listen to and look at. But, if y'all like hearing from a spouse, and want us to talk more about how does that work in regards to, our, interaction with Casey having rheumatoid arthritis, or really just understanding, how do y'all deal with certain situations, let us know if that's something you want to hear more of, and then we'll get me on YouTube more often and have a conversation. If not, that's totally fine. Casey's great, but wanted to throw this out there to the YouTube world, realizing, a lot of people that have RA have spouses or loved ones that care for them a lot, and, in a lot of cases, it's very difficult. Obviously not for the patient, just for them to deal with, but for their spouse as well. So if we can help folks out with, chatting about, be able to relate to folks that have a spouse with RA, let us know, and we'll do this again.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments below if there's any other topics you'd like for us to cover. And if you haven't heard the backstory of my diagnosis story, you can click on the next video, and also my tips for being diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Sound like
you want me to re-say it again?
Let me see.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how you want me to sit. 15 years later this year being married. And so...
I'm just testing to see if the mic can hear us okay. I really wanted you to see this.
No, I'm over your knees.
I don't even know if I'm going to pronounce that right.
Unless you want me to be like this the whole time.
First place, it's complicated, because if not, you're not making eye contact. That's one of the things I teach in my
look
class.
At the green. Oh, sorry. Okay.
What?
Hey, friends. So I would be like this.
I don't know.
It's a lot.
Just seems crazy. You can talk too.
We're going to be talking for a long time.
Hopefully not. We don't have to go on to that much detail. This is just a test. How would you describe it as like I'm a turtle slow? I think that should be good. That's usually what I do. This is good. Okay.